Boom, what's up everyone? Welcome to Simulation. An epic episode today, immersive experiences at the peak. Definitely some of the best ones out there. We have Hidary joining us. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Great to be here, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about transformation through music. And Murray, 4.5 years ago, started MindTravel. And MindTravel, I was grateful enough to get one of these experiences in Los Angeles.
We shared quite the night.
And we have some really great videos and images to walk you through what this experience is actually like and how we can help bring it to more people around the world. It's just so reflecting, so contemplative, so meditative, so musically tying into our body and our soul.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm so grateful that you
Thank
built
you.
this.
Thank you.
So how does one even get onto this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. One very small step at a time. I mean, this really goes back to when I was 5, 6 years old. I started playing music, cello when I was 5, piano when I was 6. All my siblings played. It was something that our mom just was like, exposed us to music. But by the time I got to be, early high school, music became such a vehicle of expression for me. I was a very shy kid. Words were not easy for me to come up with. I was difficult to express myself through words. And music really was my outlet. And very quickly, I started to compose my own short songs and tunes at the piano. And when I was in high school, I had a very clear vision that I had something to say with music, and that I wanted to be a composer, that I had my own thing to say with music, not just perform other composers' work. As much as I love Bach and Chopin and Beethoven and all the greats, I had my own message at some point to express through music. So it started with writing the alma mater to my high school, and then I became a composer. I studied to be a composer at NYU, and that was my training, and then the rest kind of took off from there.
I love the mother that helped seed the instruments at a young age.
Yeah.
This is a frequent occurrence with parents and children, is that if you seed them with tools and resources at young enough ages, they will naturally be able to figure out what their soul path is. But when we don't have those resources or tools available to kids, then sometimes we vector off in the wrong ways.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because resources are sometimes skills. There's sometimes physical resources. Of course, there's resources we get from our parents, but some of them are soft resources, right? Like emotional resources and personality resources. And I asked my mother, I remember, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago, I asked her, what was your ethos in raising us as a parent, as a mother? Kind of what really was your goal? What drove you?
Great question.
I mean, great question, because it's a question that you certainly don't know the answer to when you're a kid, right? So it's an adult conversation to have with your parent in reflection of your childhood. And it helps frame a lot of things. And I asked her that question without hesitation. She didn't even have to think about it. It was very clear for her. And she said, my goal with each and every one of you, and I'm one of 5, I'm the second of 5, with each and every one of you was to give you the confidence to do what you want to do with your life.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And that just hit me like a ton of bricks at the time, because I was like, yeah, because each of my siblings are remarkable each in their own way, and we each do different things. I have a brother that's in neuroscience. I have a brother that's an Orthodox rabbi. I have a brother that's in alternative energy and solar energy. My sister was a brilliant, beautiful dancer and teacher. So each of us doing our own thing in our own way, but each of us with the confidence that we can achieve what our dream is. And so it wasn't a cookie cutter thing, right? Like, oh, we're all doctors, or we're all lawyers, or right? It was like each and every one of us can figure out what we want to do and have the confidence to achieve it, to pursue it, to execute on it. And that's, I think, a great gift that she gave each and every one of us, and I'm super grateful for that. And then, of course, the actual skills, the resources, right? Say, because when you pick up an instrument at 5, 6 years old, it's second nature, right? It's like kids with these, with their iPhones today, right, or their iPads. Like, it took us a while to figure out what this gesture was and what, all these gestures. For them, it's second nature, right? And so they're kind of going into their future with inherent skills that were more learned for us to, you know, achieve as adults. But that's what music was for me. You know, when I sit at the piano, when I sit at the cello, these are positions and muscle formulations that are just so natural for me. So it's a real blessing that I have that in my, literally in my physicality and in my kind of brain body connection.
Yeah. That's such a good story from your mom. That's such a good ethic ethos from her.
I mean, just amazing that she was present to that. And by the way, she was 18 when she got married. Had me when she was 22. So what 22-year-old thinks that way, let alone a 32, 42, 52-year-old, 62-year-old thinks that way. Like, it's just incredible that she had the presence to that. And, you know, and like many parents, she wanted to play piano when she was a kid. But my grandparents, for whatever reason, didn't offer that to her. And so when she became a parent, she gave us all music, kind of that compensatory thing in a way, but in a positive sense, right? She's like, I couldn't play when I was a kid. I want you to play. And she took lessons side by side with us. That's what was cool.
She did?
Yeah, we went to the teacher, me and my older brother. At the time, we were, you know, I was 5 years old. My brother was 8. And, you know, she would sit there through our lessons, and then she would take a lesson as well. And we would sit there waiting for her to take her lesson. Wow. It was just awesome. Yeah, I remember that very clearly. I would read my Winnie the Pooh or Charlotte's Web, you know, in the other room while she would get her lesson. Yeah.
Wow. So that I love ethics that can be applied universally to give kids the confidence or the courage that they need to reach their actualization, their peak, their goal, their soul blueprint.
Right.
That I love universal ethics like that, because universally people can just agree that that's a really good one. How do we give kids that?
That's a good one. It's a critical one, because we all have great ideas, Alan, right? We all have ideas that could be game-changing. We all have ideas that could be disruptive, that could be transformative for other people, for society. But how many of us take that first step?
Yeah.
How many of us are able to execute on it?
Yeah.
And it's not just resources, it's not just money. You could have all the money in the world. I know people that have all the money in the world, and they do not execute on their own ideas. Yeah. It's self-esteem, it's lack of confidence, it's what if I fail, right? There's all these fears that bubble up to the surface. And those are natural fears. We all have those fears. But what do you do in the face of that fear, right? Do you just hear it and listen to it and cower to it? Or do you hear it and be like, thank you, I appreciate that, I'm going to keep going, right?
Yep.
And that's the difference between those who achieve and those who don't.
Whatever's on the other side of fear is the most amazing success story of your life.
That's right.
Much.
Absolutely right.
Best stories of your life. So, all right, that was amazing, because we were 100% on board with actualizing children into our world. Okay, we talk about that a lot, so I love that intro to this show. Okay, so we ended up, was 4.5 years ago the start of the theater, because it was NYU, and then where did the whole idea to take the composed music come into the theaters for these experiences?
So, I mean, if we just back up for a minute, just in terms of the chronology of the story. So, when I graduated, you know, studying classical composition from NYU, my first question upon graduation was, how am I going to make any money with classical music, right? And people with my degree from my program, they would typically go into writing jingles for TV, commercials, TV scores, things like that. And if that's your goal, awesome, more power to you. It wasn't my calling at the time. And by the way, in today's TV age, commercials are kind of cooler. They're more content than they ever were, and more creative than they ever were. But back then, I don't think they were so much. So it wasn't my calling. And I said, and I would talk to these composers, and I'd be like, well, you're working on these commercials, you're making good money. When did you write your first symphony, right? And they look at me like I had 12 heads, and they'd be like, what are you talking about? There's like no time for that. And they've been working for 15 years doing what they do without writing the music they really want to write.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, that was a wake-up call for me, right? I was like, okay, that you can get really caught up in the deadlines, in the money, in the flow of that, and then not write the music you wanted to write. That seemed like almost a form of of existential hell to me,
Yeah.
where you're writing music, but not what you want to write, not what you want to express, which is the whole point and purpose of getting into it in the first place.
And that's also what so many people in the socioeconomic political trap that we live in
Absolutely.
go through.
Absolutely.
I have a sole purpose that is getting vectored off course because I have to make money to pay for rent and pay for food.
That's right. And these are rational, pragmatic, reasonable decisions and choices that we make. And we think that we can figure out how to compensate for this loss of spirit and soul that we sacrificed in our deal with the devil. Not to put it so dramatically, but it is a somewhat deal with the devil on some degree. But we have to be careful because suddenly 15, 20 years goes by.
Really quick, and then
very quickly.
And then think about the beautiful composed piece that could have been.
And then you just, you can course correct, but how are you aware to course correct? And will you be too stuck or perceived to be too stuck to course correct? So I was, thank God I got that message at 22. But then I was like, well, now what do I do? I have to support myself. And so I started teaching kids how to, play piano and appreciate music and music theory. Yeah. But that was getting me, I don't know, $18,000 a year as a music teacher, and I was like, okay, this is, getting me some food, but there's a lot I want to do in life. I want to see the world. I want to explore. I want to create. I want to do things that I need more resources. And I was talking to my older brother at the time, and I was telling him my frustration and trying to figure out my path. And he was working at the NIH, the National Institutes of Health at the time, doing neuroscience research there. And he was one of the first, because he worked in a government facility, he was one of the first to see the internet, the earliest days of the internet in 1994, 1995. And he said, Murray, have you ever heard of the internet? It's a crazy question, right? Yeah. But that actually was a valid question at some point in history, right? So I was like, I think I heard of it. What is it? Tell me again. What is it? And he said, I'm coming to New York. I'll show you. I'll show you. And he comes to New York and he shows me this obscure, there was no web. It was just text databases of people sharing, in his case, scientists and medical researchers sharing it. And I was like, well, this is interesting. And he goes, this is going to be a game changer. I said, yeah, I think it's going to be a game changer. It's connecting so many thousands of people. Of course, it would become billions of people, right? Yeah. And we decided to just jump in because it was such an exciting time, such an early time, but such an exciting time. And we just jumped in. We created a company called EarthWeb. And long story short, cut to 1998, we took that company public. And we just had an absolute blast of a ride for those 5-6 years of building that company up and taking it public, and having our father with us on the exchange floor the day we went public. And he, until that point, he had no idea what we did. He was like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but whatever, good luck, I support you. I wish you would come into the family business, but okay, you're doing what you're doing, kids will be kids. And then
what was EarthWeb doing?
So EarthWeb began as one of the premier web shops, voted by Wired Magazine as the top web consultancy in the country. And then we actually created
for web design
for web design, but massive installations, big integrations online. We built the New York Stock Exchange website, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, these massive infrastructures of web design, but also these real kind of deep integrations with back office legacy systems. So that kind of thing. If you remember the BMG buy 10 CDs for the price of one thing back when we were younger, we ported that all online for downloads and integrated it with their fulfillment facilities, and just a lot of legacy enterprise systems with web interfaces. So we were the biggest and best at doing that. But then we realized we wanted to kind of expand beyond that. And since we were tech people, creating stuff for tech people, we ended up building Dice.com, the job board, the career site, which till today is the largest job site for tech and related areas.
Interesting. Dice is,
yeah. So we were pioneering moving career and job placement from literally paper, right? From newspapers and magazines and offline to the web. And so we pioneered that and grew that, and today it's a $250 million business, and And we're fully out of that now, but it continues to thrive something that we built, and something I'm very proud of.
You and your brother, or you're composing, he's in neuroscience, but you're still working on web companies that are right at the forefront of the era. That's great.
And I think that the reason for that is not that I was a techie. I learned on the job. I figured it out as I went. But it was such an exciting area. It was living on that edge. It was, as a creative person, it was something that just drew me because of its potential, because of its possibility. The tech part is the detail, right? There's issues and technical issues and jargon and things in every industry, whether it's music, whether it's technology, whatever it is. That you can learn, you can figure that out, right? As long as you aren't daunted by it and you have no limiting belief that, oh, I'm not a techie or I'm not this, right? We all are everything if we want to be. So I just figured that out and hired people that were smarter than me in those areas to figure that out. I never wrote a line of code in a company that wrote millions of lines of code, right? But it was not about that. It was about, what's the vision? Where is this going? What's the potential? What's the possibility? What can people do with what we build that they can't do today? So that was the idea.
Let's throw us back in the timeline. So where's Dice, and then where did the composing for the first theater shows happen?
Right. So because I kept the music, that decision when I was 22 to keep the music more personal, I continued to write for others throughout that whole startup experience. And I had, a blessing of my first symphony recorded and performed in St. Petersburg, Russia, as an example. So, again, other musicians playing my work, and it was few and far between, but it was enough to kind of keep me going. I had my visual art, my photography, and work shown in different galleries. Again, because I didn't have to show up 9 to 5 for my art, right, for my music. So I was able to maintain it with other people performing it, or agents and galleries showing my work. I was able to do that while having my startup and eventually my public company. So that was possible. I also had a grand piano in my office in New York on Park Avenue.
Wow.
And all my employees at the time if you ask them, they remember I had this grand piano in my office, and at the end of every 16-hour, 12-hour startup day, I would just sit at the piano and I would just play.
Yeah.
And it was my way of resetting.
Yes.
It was my way of decompressing and processing. And that became my musical ritual.
Yes.
That became my musical meditation. That became my way of finding that balance, of resetting. And I just did that all the time. And that became my language, and evolved to create this experience that was extemporaneous, this improvisation. And it was the way I would look to find material for composed pieces, but it in and of itself became a ritual that was so valuable to me, I couldn't replace it with anything else. And I had studied meditation. I had, my journey into the spiritual realms started when I was 16. I read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And then I was off, right? Read everything I could get my hands on, traveled overseas for a year, lived in monasteries, studied Zen Buddhism, studied Vedic traditions. I just took it all in. And that world started to fuse with the classical world. And that's what was being expressed, is my understanding, my attempt to understand the universe through the lens of these mystical traditions, these wisdom traditions, these Eastern philosophies, as well as using classical music training that I had. That was my language of expression. Looking at, I trained with some of the greatest minimalist composers, and those two worlds started to talk to each other.
I love that fusion of that spiritual with the musical, and being able to express it into the kind of society that we live in today in a way that resonates with people, in a way that, and this is kind of where we're getting at, is all of the ways that you get to express what you've learned, the universe, through music to people's souls. Meanwhile, people are having these incredible experiences while they're listening.
Absolutely. And music has been fused with the spiritual traditions since the first flame, since man, kind of first found, him herself on the planet. Whether it's shamanic drumming, whether it's call and response circles, all the way to Bach writing. He was a religious composer. He worked for the church. He wrote a cantata every week for services on Sunday. That's why he has such a prolific amount of work. To Beethoven, who said that music is the medium to bridge the divide between the sensual and the spiritual, right? He was saying that 200 years ago. So there's always been this thread line, right, of music, spirituality, being, you know, kind of connected at the hip, if you will. And it just continues to evolve, right? As society evolves, as what's important to us evolves. For me, music is religion. A very different kind of religion,
totally,
right?
Like
not
a
institutionalized,
one, non-institutionalized,
totally secularized, but taking the best wisdom that I can find out there, expressing it through music, and using the music itself, the process of creating and playing music, to give the lessons that are helpful in everyday life, right? And there's lots of those lessons available.
And we still need to, you know, get through all of this beautiful content that we have and show people. And I also want to talk a bit about music theory and music composition, because that in itself is super fascinating and complex. So let's get to how we got from the tech boom companies to theater performances of MindTravel, and then we'll get to the other experiences. So,
cut to about 5 years ago, I decide, you know what, it's time. I always knew I wanted to get back to my music. The tech companies, and by that time I had built 3-4 companies already, took one public, sold one, sold two. I said, okay, what am I waiting for, right? It's never a good time to make a life change. No one would ever say, oh, now's the right time to do it. Everything's perfect, everything's aligned. I have no commitments, everything's great. By nature of living, you have commitments and distractions and responsibilities that could, if you think of them that way, could get in the way of making a significant life change. So moving from doing the tech stuff to my music full-time was one of those moments for me. And I said, I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm doing it. If not now, when? So I actually first chose to move cities, because New York for me was so distracting. The energy of New York, all my friends, family, tech ventures, projects coming at me, always a distraction at the waiting.
Totally.
So I actually was already spending part-time in LA, and I knew I would have to kind of be in my house playing piano, really digging into the music, hours and hours a day.
Exactly,
So having that kind of outdoor space and natural environment was much more conducive than kind of feeling a little more cooped up in New York. So I actually sold my place in New York, because if I kept it, you just easily to come back. But if I sold it, there's no place to come back to. So I sold the apartment, which I had for 12 years, by the way. And I moved to Los Angeles. And then I said, you know, if I'm going to do this for real, it's not just about composing, but now it's about performing. And that's a different level of execution of playing. It's a very different level to be able to play well enough to compose or play well enough to perform. And I said, I need to upgrade my chops, right? And I thought about athletes, right? The highest performing athletes in the world. You look at Roger Federer, you look at any of these incredible athletes, they all have full-time coaches. Now, if you're Roger Federer, what do you need a coach for? You're the best in the world. But that's why these guys are the best in the world, right? Because they have someone who's objectively seeing things from a different vantage point. Try this, try that.
Accountability.
Accountability is a big part of it, absolutely. And so I said, why shouldn't I treat myself like the best athletes in the world treat themselves? I am a musical athlete, right? And so I actually went and got my original piano coach who trained me in New York. At the time, he was living in Munich. I was in Europe. I went to visit him, spent a few days with him. We caught up, and we decided that he was going to relocate to Los Angeles as my full-time coach.
Wow.
And so I literally airlifted him out of Munich, and he was at a time of his life where he was ready for a change like that. And so I airlifted him out. We got him a visa, sponsored him, and moved him into my house in Los Angeles.
Yes, exactly.
Not to Los Angeles.
Totally.
Into the guest bedroom of my house.
Exactly. Because that's how you execute.
That's how you execute. If you want to do it, you got to immerse yourself deeply. And so we would then train hours and hours a day. And it's like going to for an athlete, going to the gym and just training and doing every kind of exercise to get your fitness in the best shape. We did the equivalent of that at the piano. And After doing that for months and months and months and months, I then realized, okay, now it's time to put this out there and see what people think. And all I could do is put the experience out as I do it on my own, right? Those countless hours, right, at the office playing at the end of the day, which I would also do in my own home. I'm going to just essentially share that and make people privy to that personal experience. And it had no name in the years before, but I said, I must come up with a name for this experience so people can relate to it, as opposed to come see Murray Hidary perform. It's not about entertainment.
Totally.
It was never about entertainment or impressing people or performing for people. It was about sharing a very private experience with people.
Sharing and that transformation that they experience while they listen to the music.
That's right. And sharing something that had a profound impact on me and seeing if it'll have the same impact on others.
Yes.
So I invited people to my living room, to my home.
Yes.
And about 40 people came, friends and friends of friends. And I just said, this is something I call MindTravel. And I came up with that name literally a week before that. And I was sitting at my dining room table talking to a friend. And I said, what is this experience? It's happening in your mind. It's like going on a journey. And then the name MindTravel emerged. And I said, that's the name. And so I said, come join me on this musical journey, on this MindTravel experience. And I took them through, I don't know, about a 30, 40 minute continuous musical journey.
And they'd sit there in your living room.
They sat there, some were lying down, some were sitting down, some were on the couch, some were, just everywhere in the living room.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I had a friend of mine record one by one a bunch of people who were there in the other room, in private, their reaction to it. What was their reaction to the experience?
Yes.
And the next day, I watched about 15 of these interviews.
Yeah.
And I was brought to tears.
Yes.
I was moved. I was moved by how moved they were.
Exactly.
And I said, okay, people are getting it. This is a unique experience. This is not a concert where I'm playing a piece and then people clap, then another piece, then people clap, and then another piece. That's how concerts typically go. But I was going after something different. What I was going after was something experiential where people opened up.
Yeah.
It takes time to open up.
Yes.
Some people can open up in a minute. Great. Some people take 20 minutes. Some people take an hour. So I need to give the mind, the body, time to blossom, to open up. So if it's constantly stopping and starting, then people are taken out in and out of the experience and they'll keep shutting down and opening, shutting, they'll never get there. So that was the key for me, and that was the format that I used. And so I said from the beginning, this is going to be consistent and authentic with what I do on my own. I'm not going to try to dumb it down. I'm not going to try to make it more commercial. I'm not going to try to do anything like that. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So that was the key rule I set for myself from the beginning. This has to be an authentic experience, consistent with what works for me. And if it's not deemed to be commercial, because we live in an ADD society where people can only watch, 2 minutes of video or whatever, like, okay, well, we're doing something different here. This is a long format.
Likewise.
Right? I mean, put your phone away. Like, this is like, we're going in.
Yeah.
And
this is to unlock people's souls through music.
Right.
And this is also to unlock people's minds through conversation. So
absolutely.
We're on the same vibe in that sense.
And I think, people were ready for it. People were ready for it. And that was what was most encouraging, that they were ready for it.
You're watching the interviews are bringing you to tears, you're realizing that you need to take this to the next level.
Right. And I said, okay, well, let's do it. So that living room became another small venue, the Soho House as an example, and I started to do those and just introduce it to more and more people, and it was all Alan word of mouth. People just invited people. I never... Till today, I've never advertised. I've never kind of taken out any campaign. It's all been word of mouth. And eventually to bring it to theaters with gorgeous Steinway pianos and then bringing my visuals into it so that people can see what they hear in the music, right? And some people are more visual than others. Some people like to close their eyes and just take it in. Other people, visuals are very helpful. So I kind of create this fully immersive multimedia experience, which we've done at theaters. And I've had the pleasure and privilege of bringing it to theaters from Lincoln Center in New York to the Ace Theater in downtown LA and many places in between.
Wow.
So
Ron, let's throw up some of those theater images onto the stream. I love this. This looks so beautiful.
So here you see, of course, it's me at the piano. and you see this backdrop, which is a 40-foot backdrop with the constellations, which if you were to be in the theater or watch the video at another date, then you would start to see the music. There's actually a microphone in the piano that moves and directs the images, so it's generated dynamically. There's software algorithms in my visual software, and these constellations start to warp and move, and the vibration of the piano, the music of the piano, actually starts to affect what's on the screen.
Yeah.
And the idea here is that there's a fundamental philosophy that vibrations, whether it's music, whether it's our words, impacts our reality.
Yes.
So this is representing our reality, the universe around us. And so we are literally creators. We are the ones dictating how everything around us looks and is created. And that's what I was artistically showing, right? As I play, the universe is getting sculpted to what I'm creating. And that was the message that I was attempting to send at this particular concert, and of course, many, many, many concerts after this.
I love how you went and took the visual and had the algorithms that would change through the music, change the visuals.
Well, that's the key.
That ended up becoming a new age of immersive experience, because it used to just be the instrument. Now it's also the instrument and the visual. So you're adding a whole new layer to the.
Well, and the key is that if I'm playing extemporaneously, right? I'm improvising. So each time it's different. If the visuals are the same, okay, look, it works. It's I get it. But what if the visuals are also changing, so the whole thing is different each time, and the whole thing is integrated each time, and that has such a purity to it, and just such an impact to it as well.
I'm glad that you went and did theater shows, and then you were like, hey, doing this in theaters is one thing, and then doing this on the beach is another thing.
That was the second evolution, second step evolution. So here you see an orchestra playing the work as well. So I've collaborated with some of the finest musicians in Los Angeles and New York and other cities, and it's just amazing to just have that kind of power to play with this caliber of musicians. These are the best in the world. That we're playing with. You see the visuals there. Again, the visuals are dancing to the music, literally dancing to the music.
And you have some of the best in the world on musicians that are collaborating with you. Meanwhile, the visuals are going on. This is amazing. Right. But then this is so much interestingly different than when you go out onto Ocean Beach or Venice. So why don't you walk us? Well, actually, we have a cool video to play of.
Yeah, let's show people the experience, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, let's do that. Cool.
What do you feel like when you're free? What if you could love the way you want to? What gives you hope? What does strength really look like? What kind of world do you want to create? What if your greatest self is only a moment away? What if? What if?
Wow. There's so many things to bring up there. First thing was the bass clef. I really loved your logo, how it's the two bass clefs. It's the reflection, it's the heart.
Yes.
And then there's also the amazingness of being there at a sunset in nature, sharing an experience with other people on a sandy beach with fresh air from the ocean coming in. Yeah. You can walk through the water, the ocean water. You know, there you are. Like the drone view showed so many people there having an amazing time. Wow.
And the reason why we went there, right? Everything is purposeful with this experience. So nature is such an inspiration, right? For me as an artist and for each of us as human beings, right? Nature is such an inspiration. So I figured if I can bring the audience to nature, right, half the job is done for me before I play one note. So, and it's just so inspiring, right? And your imagination just goes, and it's just so healing to be by the ocean, of course, especially at sunset. It's just such a powerful time of transition of the light from light through dark, and we go into the dark, right?
Correct.
So it's this incredible time of creativity. And so I bring the audience there, but then I shift them from being audience members, right? Again, I'm not entertaining them, right? That's not what I'm there for.
Yes.
I'm there to facilitate and lead them on a journey.
Yes.
So they're able to find freedom in the experience, meaning they can lie on their blanket, they can sit in their chair, or they can get up and they can walk the beach for hundreds of feet anywhere they want because they're all wearing these headphones. So why are they wearing headphones? I mean, I can have these huge speakers, but it never sounds great at the beach. The acoustics are not great. The headphones provide a great acoustic experience where everyone essentially has a front row seat, no matter where they are. And then there's something else magical happens, Alan. When you put headphones on, even if you're on your own, you're on the subway, you're in, you're going for a walk, you're on a hike, wherever you are, you immediately go into this internal frame, this internal state, right? But now what happens when you're with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other people and you're having your internal state, your alone time, and then you look around while you're having your internal moment and you're forgetting about the world, and you see hundreds of other people having the same alone time, the same intimate moment, the same individual moment that you are collectively. There's an experiential shift that happens in that moment for you. Something clicks, and you get the lesson that we are each profoundly powerful individuals in a collective power that can't be matched. And the two are equal and integrated. And the second you get that, I think you get a big part of the human experience. Because too often we think we're alone, which translates into loneliness, right? Loneliness is just the interpretation of an alone state. That's all it is. It's a psychological interpretation of it, right? And so you get this integration of the whole, of the individual parts coming together as a whole, and you feel that. And the music is the space, is what facilitates that. Just in the same way that music, right, is composed of individual notes that make up a composition, we are individual notes making up a human symphony. So that's what's being communicated through the experience, right? And then people are standing by the water, they're up to their knees in the ocean with the music playing in the headphones. It's just absolutely ecstatic. Yeah, it's really cool.
I love how just you had the foresight to realize to bring it out of the theater into nature, and then when you get to nature, you strap people into the headphones because then they're having this inward experience with a front row seat with the acoustics. And then the other thing that, like we have this vision with filling sports stadiums during their unused time for the thousands of curious intellectuals sharing the experience of mind expansion, that this is the same thing. That when you're watching this at home, it's great, but when you're watching it in a stadium with thousands of other people, that's the experience when your mind traveling with hundreds of other people that are also going through this process of this inward reflection and this symphony of notes that we're all beautifully similar and different, and we're all on this color wheel of different colors that are building different things into the world.
Absolutely.
I love it. And so, I love how you took it from there, and then you were like, I know what the next step is.
Next step. I'm looking to immerse people. Okay, let's really immerse them. What could be more immersive than taking the audience and putting them inside of water, and actually experiencing it in water. And so we then did some beta testing, and now we take over an Olympic pool, and we place the audience floating weightlessly with pool noodles supporting their knees and back. By the way, one of the best moments of my life was when I actually clicked buy on Amazon for 400 pool noodles.
Yeah, 400 pool noodles. Yeah.
If you ever find yourself doing that, you know life is good. Like, you've made it. If you're ordering 400 pool noodles on Amazon. But anyway.
You're in it for the long haul.
That's right. You're committed. You're committed. One way or the other, you're committed. So
gorgeous. And just to, this is the same one that we were at? Yeah. And this is which one in LA again?
This is in Culver City at the place called The Plunge. It's an outdoor Olympic pool.
The Plunge.
The Plunge.
The Plunge. In LA, Olympic-sized swimming pool. And so you're wearing wetsuits, and you're also using pool noodles.
That's right.
And then you have, in the bottom right corner, you see Murray set up on...
That's my piano.
On the piano.
Yeah.
And then what you get is a bunch of really powerful underwater speakers. Yeah,
there's a massive network of underwater speakers you can see with those wires there. Because headphones, they're not waterproof, and even if they were, you wouldn't get a deep of an experience, because with the underwater speakers, first of all, you hear it once your head goes back and you float, an underwater sound opens up to you, but you also feel it, Alan, in your body, right?
Exactly.
As you remember.
Those vibrations of the sound waves just going through the water, they ripple through your soul. It's so amazing.
And we are cavities, right? We're instruments. We have hollow, empty parts of us that resonate and vibrate, and the musical frequencies go through the water. Water is a more efficient conductor than air of sound and music, 4.3 times more efficient. And so you are part of the vibration, literally. You are part of it. And you're sharing that with 200 other people, floating with you. And then after they float for the first half, the second half, as you remember, people are free, moving, swimming, dancing underwater in this beautiful childlike playfulness, which we all of us we forget too often how to be playful and childlike, and this opens up that space for them.
And so the first half's like this, where you're laying down and you're kind of your feet are up on the safety string that floats, and then you have you're just laying there, really just reflecting meditative with all of this amazing decompression of your back and spine with the water, but then also the vibration of the music, and it's just gorgeous hearing the piano through underwater speakers. And then, thank you, Ron. And then during the second half of the session, this part I found really fascinating. When everyone's out doing their thing with swimming, some go really deep in the water, which enables them to better hear the music. I personally enjoyed basically going right up to one of the water speakers underwater, and just basically being right next to it and just listening to it. It was just like, vroom, vroom,
you could literally caress it and just have those vibrations. Like, it's just incredible. It's really true. I do the same thing.
I feel at times I felt kind of selfish, because I was like, oh crap, I'm blocking the...
It goes right through you to the next person.
And so that was Olympic-sized pool in LA. This is a little smaller.
This is a little smaller, only a 75-foot pool in New York, and we had 50 New Yorkers in this case go through it, and it was just gorgeous to watch. It's a beautiful setting, but just beautiful how people just literally dropped in to have the experience, and you see all the speakers in there.
Let's play the video that we have that shows the beauty of what this looks like.
The
underwater experience.
right?
MindTravel underwater. Yeah. So there was so much profundity there, but one of the one that caught me most we were talking about was it brings you back to the womb.
Yeah.
Shamanic baptism.
Yeah.
Losing sense of time.
Right.
These
I
are
hear that all the
amazing.
time, all the time. And I mean, it's very powerful. Water is life, you know, water is life. And so to be in it with so many others, feeling it, it's just something you can only experience when you're in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We are going to be let's aim to open up more of these across the world, really, as quickly as possible, because these do just bring community and love and light together. Okay, so that was underwater, and then let's go to some of the photos of these are easier to do. These are the silent hikes.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like you go to a beautiful place like Land's End or the Golden Gate Bridge here in San Francisco.
Yes.
And see, now we're talking like, oh, there's no pool required, there's no wetsuits required.
I just need a forest.
I just need a forest. Yeah.
or an ocean.
Yeah. And then you bring this this tub, this case of headphones, and then you can control it via music that you're already composed on your phone.
Yeah, right. So I use a recording from one of my live concerts. So it is a live recording, and then I curate the music to the setting, and I use several different pieces in and out based on the hike. And I call it a silent hike because we're all wearing the headphones, and there's a no speaking rule that we have, so that it's a very intentional, very deliberate experience. It's kind of like a modern take on walking meditation. So for those in your audience who meditate, walking meditation is a whole the dog's amazing. I mean, dogs are already enlightened beings, but they're playing along and being like, okay, I'll do this too. But yeah, no, the dogs actually love it, and this dog owner put her headphones on the dog, and the dog chilled with it the whole time. It was pretty amazing. So we go to beautiful settings, and here we're introducing more movement into the experience, right? So we're hiking for 2 to 3 hours.
Wow.
We're walking miles. Some of them are challenging, some of them are easier, and they're beautiful vistas. But not just beautiful nature vistas like we do here at Land's End or in Aspen in the mountains, but they're also cityscapes. It's important to bring this to people in urban environments and give them this experience. So we did it in New York City, right? In one of the busiest cities in the world. We brought it and took people across the Brooklyn Bridge. We took people across the Williamsburg Bridge. We took people through Central Park for 7 miles.
Wow.
And we get 100+ people at these events. And everyone's dropped in, everyone's silent. Do you know what it's like to walk through New York City streets with over 100 New Yorkers silently? Every demographic. You have Wall Street guys with their suits. You have kids. You have seniors. You have everyone there represented because it's New York City. And everyone is together in this beautiful field of kind of like a school of fish, going through the ocean of the city. I mean, it's just beautiful to experience and be a part of. So we're doing these now in 6 different cities. We've got them regularly in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, San Diego, and Aspen in New York, and we're going to continue to expand it from there. And this experience, because I'm not playing live, I'm able to bring volunteers and city leaders. And I'm training city leaders so that I give them the equipment, I train them in the format, I give them the music, and explain how they do it, how to do it, and then they can lead them on a monthly or whatever basis, without me having to be there. Because unfortunately I haven't figured out how to be everywhere yet.
I love that this is scalable then in that sense, that you found a method that is immediately scalable. And there are people across all these cities around the world that would love to conduct these for people. You've nailed it with this. So then we transition also to these different experiences across kind of just like special experiences at Burning Man. You did a David Bowie, a Brooklyn Museum experience. So these are kind of site-specific installations and activations that I've done. Burning Man is such a special place, of course, and it's just a profound environment. So when I brought MindTravel there, we did 2 special things.
the picture you see here, this is actually a moving concert on an art car,
yes,
where my piano, my keyboard is strapped to the front of this art car,
yes,
and we're actually driving, moving through the playa.
Yeah.
And there's not just these people on the car, but if you were to, if we had the picture here, you'd see 70 additional bicycles behind the car, with people wearing headphones.
Yeah.
And everyone is moving through the playa together, taking in the experience, looking at the artwork, looking at all the other people there, looking at the view, and they have the MindTravel live performance on this moving stage, right? And you have 70 plus cyclists as the participants of this experience. It was just incredibly profound, with the windstorms coming through and the elements all around us. Just beautiful. And of course, we brought it to the temple each night there, which, for those who are familiar with the temple, the profound nature of it, the sacred nature of it. For those who don't, it's really a very, very holy place for human reflection and contemplation. And so we bring it there each night at Burning Man.
And you have this throughout these experiences that we've listed, with the underwater or the beach or the hikes or the special experiences, it all ties into this earth energy, these earth elements.
Right.
You were talking about it earlier with how we're all connected through water, and
yes,
water being such a holy thing.
Yeah.
Nature being such a holy thing. I'm really happy that you have that strong tie to life force.
Absolutely, and I think if you look at what people are searching for today, and I just speak from my own experience, right? I mean, I grew up with very institutionalized religion, and I think many of us have, and something about it doesn't strike to the center of what we're looking for. It provides some ritual, but maybe the meaning we're looking for is a bit elusive, or even the rituals sometimes seem outdated. And so in kind of more of an open context, in more of a universal context, in more of a secularized context, where science is brought in, where experiences are brought in, can we be more proactive? Can we be more deliberate in the rituals that we want to create in our lives? But we don't just want to do them on our own at home. We want to actually have rituals that we're able to share in community, yep, with like-minded and others. And so that's really what this is becoming in that way, where it's these rituals that we're able to do over and over again. They're purification rituals, like the underwater experience, where you leave the water different than when you entered it.
Yeah, yep.
Right? That's what's happening.
Yep.
And so and music, having, music being the true universal human language, right? I've played MindTravel. I've brought it to dozens of cities, dozens of countries.
Japan or Africa or anywhere.
The reaction element is the same.
Yeah.
Whether I was in Dubai, whether I was in Istanbul, yeah, whether I was in Berlin, whether I was in London, New York, San Francisco, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, I've played in all these places to audiences, and the reaction is the same.
The universal language of music.
It's the same reaction.
Of love.
It's human experience. It doesn't matter what your label is, it's a human experience, and that overrides everything. It also underrides everything, yeah, right? It's both. So that to me is the magic of this and the blessing of the journey for me.
And I think also that your specific style of music, of classical music, is what makes it so universal. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes if you have the heavy, right, metal or the country or what a hip hop, right, that won't resonate across.
And that's more genre specific, and that's more conditioning experience specific. What I'm bringing to it is something a bit meta from all that musically. Absolutely.
And then I want to just come to an end on this. I think is so profound. This is the future of everything that we're doing as a society. Seems to be going towards experiences, immersive experiences.
Yeah.
My life is now becoming experience to experience to experience to experience, and that's my life as a timeline of experiences. Right. And you are, I think, at the forefront of amazing immersive experiences. This is, it transcends time, it moves you through the most reflective and contemplative states possible, meditative states possible, gives you the musical, the sound energy edge. I love all of that. Now, I want to see how you feel about this, because to newbies like myself and some other people that may be watching, we were listening to what you were playing there. It was dun, 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 yeah, dun, 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 dun. You were really going through this sort of how does one compose? Where does when you look at a musical chart, right? It's a chart. Is it where the bars are?
Right, staff, yeah.
Staff. It's where staff and the bar. How do you decide, to put the note low, to put the note high, to hold the note for a couple beats, or to do a couple quickly?
Right.
How do you figure that out? How does one graph out the soul music?
Right. So for me, when I'm at the piano and I'm composing live, I'm doing a real-time composition at the piano. There's none of that. All that dissolves and disappears, and it's just about how intimate and close can I get with the vibrations of the music. Yeah. And it's about getting out of my own way, getting the thought out of the way. So it's not like, okay, if I'm in this harmony and this key and this, that's all out. All that is built into my muscle memory. All that's built into my musical language. The same way that you have fluency in English and perhaps other languages. You don't think about the words when you structure them together, do you? You just say them. So that's what's happening with me musically. I'm just emoting them, I'm expressing them, and I'm storytelling at the end of the day.
Yes.
In the same way that you storytell with words. Into sentences, into paragraphs, etc., I'm storytelling with musical letters, words, sentences, and albeit an abstract storytelling. So I'm not thinking a specific storyline like we would in verbally. I'm thinking of something abstract. It's an abstract message. It's abstract storytelling. And that's about getting out of my own way consciously and dropping into some other consciousness state, right? It's not
in a flow state. You're in a deep flow and improvisational state.
Right.
You've got the prefrontal cortex, who's constantly trying to executively order everything. You've gotten that completely out of the way, so that way you can just drop in with your soul into the music, and then it's all improv. Then you're composing improvisationally.
That's right. And I'm expressing this story, and hopefully, if I'm doing my job, I'm opening up. Right. It's a process of successively opening up. Meaning, opening up my heart, opening up this vulnerability space to let people in to my hurt, to let people into my joy, to let people into my emotional state, and hopefully even further into something even deeper spiritually. And if I can do that successfully, then you don't have to be the one playing to achieve that.
Yeah.
You can just be in the field and feel the same exact thing that I'm feeling. And so if all the ingredients line up, that's the magic.
I love it,
That's
Murray.
the possible magic.
I love it. I'm so grateful to have you on the show and building this into the world. I want to have as many people as possible try this. MindTravel.com, the link is in the bio. Sign up in LA, Santa Barbara, SF, New York. Where else were you saying earlier? Aspen.
Yeah.
So there's all these different places for you to go sign up for.
San Diego. Yeah.
San Diego, the silent hikes.
Silent hikes and live experiences.
And live experiences.
All around.
And then soon we'll get more Olympic pools filled with MindTravel as well, and get more people immersed in that. We're kind of little over time. We like to ask a couple questions at the end of the show. Ron, can we get them quick in? Okay. All right. How about what do you think's the most beautiful thing in the world?
Oh wow! Every moment has infinite amount of beauty that we can see, and it's available all the time. It's available all the time. Unfortunately, we tend to not see it, and we tend to see negative. We tend to see the downside. But the exercise of opening up every single moment. I mean, I once sat in a park and found myself mesmerized by little flies flying around in a swarm. I just watched them for about 20 minutes. Yeah. And it was the most beautiful thing, trying to figure out what was happening with them and just experiencing them. So really what I'm saying is that being is the most beautiful thing I think that exists.
Yeah.
And it's free.
It's free. I love it. Being is the most beautiful thing that exists, and then you can find an unlimited amount of beauty in every single moment.
Yeah.
I think retaining that ability to do that over your life is one of the most underrepresented, undertrained skills that we desperately need to do better.
And don't confuse beauty with pretty. Right? A lot of things are pretty, but beauty transcends pretty. Beauty is about accepting, understanding, and seeing the full spectrum right, of life experience, of what's happening, which includes the ugly, which includes the sorrowful, which includes into this bittersweet wrapper.
Yes.
And feeling that fully and absorbing that into your soul on the deepest level. Yeah. That's beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a running joke where Ron says that I could see the beauty in a pile of dog shit.
You can.
Because we say that I see flies that need to poop, and that's part of
Absolutely.
It's part of the ecosystem.
You can.
Yeah.
Well, that day we got pepper sprayed. Well, it's good to get pepper sprayed, he says.
Right. It's hard to see the beauty when it affects you negatively, but if you get out of that, then you can.
We were literally on the street, and there was someone like half a block away that was upset at someone else and started pepper spraying them. And we were watching, and then we didn't, think about it so much to like have to go run away as fast as possible. But anyway, some of the particles from the pepper spray came and hit my eyes, and I just couldn't see for the longest time. And then Ron was like, "How do you feel?" I was like, it's good to get pepper sprayed. You get to
fully feel your body.
Yeah. Feel how much of a blessing it is to actually have eyes.
Have your sight.
Have your sight.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Let's get people signed up for MindTravel. Let's get them experienced in this. Murray, thank you for building this into our world.
Thank you.
We love you so much.
Love you too. Thank you, Alan.
What a pleasure.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. Thanks for directing and producing. Everyone, give us a comment below. Let us know your thoughts about MindTravel and these transformative experiences. Also, go check out MindTravel. Get yourself signed up for an experience. And make sure to go and create, go and build, go and manifest your destiny into the world. Follow that soul blueprint and execute, baby. Thank you for tuning in. Much love, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Peace.